Thank you. We are really happy to we're happy to have our speaker here today, Amelia Stansell. I met Amelia at our DGN training for DGNs and DGNDs in Virginia a few months ago, and I will never forget the first time I saw this uniform that she had on, and I'm thinking to myself, who is this woman? But she is absolutely an incredible human being. She's a passionate, powerful speaker. She speaks her mind, she speaks truth. But more than that, she is the co-chair of the Fakir Anti-Sex Trafficking Alliance Board. She's a member of the Rotary Action Group Against Slavery. She has just done so much in this area of human trafficking and anti-slavery initiatives. Apparently there's something out there that's called Inside Every Rotarian is a superhero with the power to end slavery, and all you need is a cape. And I think she's wearing it today. Amelia was recently elected as the co-chair of DGN class for 24-25. I'm happy to be a part of, yeah, whoop, whoop for that. She's just, again, a very awesome individual, passionate, powerful. She's a mom, she's a senior commercial loan officer with UVA Community Credit Union. And she actually co-founded the Fakir Anti-Sex Trafficking Alliance. So I'm not going to waste any more time introducing you, Amelia, because I think your words speak volumes, and we are just looking forward to your presentation. Thank you so much for joining us today and helping to educate us on this incredibly, incredibly significant topic. So without further ado, Amelia Stansell.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Kevin. Thank you, Jenny, and everyone for the opportunity to be here today, and for letting me spend a little bit of time with you guys, and all of my craziness of wearing a superhero costume, but it's just kind of my shtick. It's fun. But I just want to say thank you to all of you, and also that Deb and Cam jumped on, Christina jumped on. Just shows the commitment that this district has to ending slavery right there where you are, and then all around the world. So it's my honor to be here with you guys today to spend a little bit of time talking about the Rotary Action Group Against Slavery, talking about what trafficking looks like globally, then we're going to take it to what it looks like in the US, and then what it looks like right there in North Carolina, and then what we can do about it as Rotarians. In 2017, I attended the Rotary International Convention in Atlanta, and I'm sure some of you guys were also there. There was a huge candlelight vigil that happened where they started talking about this thing, slavery and human trafficking. And we had a speaker, we had Ashton Kutcher come and talk about what he's doing to end trafficking, and all of these breakouts were on human trafficking. And I have to admit, I didn't know what they were talking about. I didn't understand that human trafficking was a thing, that slavery wasn't dead. It just, and I guess maybe I was naive, or maybe we were all naive until the first time you really have this placed on your heart and on your mind. I left that convention thinking, wow, somebody really should do something about that. For those people over there, right? That they should do something about it for those people over there, wherever there is, whether there in my mind was in the Middle East or in Asia or in a big city or wherever that there was. And as I got back and I started learning more, one, I realized that God kind of said, no, you're that somebody, you need to do something about it. The same as each and every one of you and us as Rotarians can do something about it, that we have the opportunity to do it. So once God kind of placed it on my heart, and I'm sure on your hearts today and in the future, you'll want to do something about it. So I came back from that convention and said, okay, well, what can I do? I'm just a mom, I'm just a Rotarian, I'm just a banker, I'm just a whatever. But through that power of that one individual who got a spark, that one person who got involved, I've pulled more and more and more people into this, the same as you guys leave today. Hopefully you'll go out and do the same thing and bring more and more people into it as you learn and as this gets placed on your heart as well. So with that, I want to talk to you guys about what that superpower is and how each of us can be able to make a change. But like I said, we're going to start with the global problem. globally, it's a huge problem. Globally, there's over 40.3 million people enslaved in trafficking. That's a huge number that I couldn't really wrap my head around because it's so big. But when you dig into that number, to put it in perspective, that's more slaves living in the world today than there are Canadians. And since we have our Rotary International president, Jennifer Jones, is from Canada, think of that. Like, think of this huge country. Now, granted, there's a lot of empty space in Canada, huge country. That's how many people there are. And then I was going through, I'm like, okay, but no, let's look at the country. Let's look at how many people that is in the US. It's the top 27 cities in the US. All of their inhabitants, the top 27 cities, all combined is 40 million people. It's a lot of people that are in there. And you go, well, how can that be? Like, what is slavery? That's anywhere from labor trafficking, the people who are picking your produce, who are making your shirt, maybe even my costume, maybe your phone. It might be the people who are engaged in sex trafficking. So it might be the people that you see that are working in massage parlors, or that you've seen, because outside, right? But being at the massage parlors, it might be at strip clubs. They might be in the escort business, in the sex industry. They might be child labor, child marriage, organ trafficking, debt bondage. Modern slavery takes on so many different forms today, which is why we can't wrap our heads around it typically, because it's so hidden in plain sight. We just don't understand what we're seeing, and it's so big. It's the $150 billion a year industry. It's the second largest criminal enterprise in the world, right behind drugs, expected to overtake it soon. So crazy big numbers in there when you start looking at that. So I was like, I can't wrap my hand around something that big of a problem. So I said, okay, what can I really affect? How can I make a difference in my community and start to learn about this? So I really kind of focused down and said, okay, I'm going to look at sex trafficking. It's something I can wrap my head sort of not around, but at least it's a piece of it that I can talk about, that I can look at in my community. So I want to talk about what sex trafficking looks like and why these numbers kind of stick with me and where they will probably stick with you. So in the US, 1 in 5 teens are going to be approached by a trafficker online before they're 18. Those are boys and girls. It's online through social media. It's through the gaming platforms that kids are using. It's through phishing emails and messages and texts and things like that go out. That 1 in 5 kids are going to be approached by a trafficker online. That blew my mind when I thought of that, because I have 2 little girls. I have an 8-year-old and a 10-year-old, and we go to a little church out in Warrenton, Virginia. And in that little church on a Saturday night, there might be 4 or 5 or 6 kids that are up front for that children's sermon. And I can't help but count heads and wonder if I've done enough to protect those kids, knowing that 2 of those heads sleep under my own roof at night. Have I done enough for them? Have I done enough for those other kids in the room, knowing that they're going to get approached? And are they going to have the tools to do something about that? Some other facts. I'm a banker, so I love facts and stats. And if you don't, so sorry. I'm going to give you some more stats because it'll help you understand why this is important stuff. Additional facts. In the US, the average age of a sex trafficking victim is 12 to 14 years old. That's 6th grade. Think about it. 6th grade. How innocent you were, how naive you were when you were in 6th grade. And that's the average age, which means there's older, there's younger. In fact, I was down in Harrisonburg, Virginia last week and met with some clubs down there. And one of the NGOs that was there was sharing a story that she was working with a victim. Well, she's working with a CASA advocate now, but the victim was 17 months old. That's just horrifying to me, that this child had been trafficked since an infant, and at 17 months old, this child was rescued and is a victim and it will be a survivor. But think of all the trauma that child has have to go through to go forward. These victims, they're often abused by the men that by their pimps. They're abused by the men that they serve. The average in America, the average victim serves 20. I'll say men, people, typically men, sorry, per day. So 20. If you take that out over the 2.5 years that the average victim in America is being trafficked, if you extrapolate that out, that's about 18,000 rapes. That's the only way you can say it is they're rapes. This is not their choice. They don't choose to be a victim. They're a victim. So it's 18,000 individual instances of rape is what they're enduring during that time. And if they survive, the average lifetime is only 7 years. If they survive, it's truly life or death. Either they're going to get out of it and they're going to be able to survive and make it through, or they end up not making it due to a lot of it's suicide, a lot of it's drugs, other things that happen in their lives that their bodies just shut down and degrade, and they don't make it. So this is why the Surgeon General about 5 years ago listed it as being a public health issue, that it's not just a mental health, it's not just a law enforcement issue. This is also a public health issue because it is so difficult on a body and on a psyche. So who's the buyer? This is a really good one. 1 in 7 adult men have engaged in commercial sex in America. If I were in the room, I'd count the men in the room. So sorry to make you squirm a little bit. Online, same. But 1 in 7 have paid for commercial sex. That might be an escort service. That might be a massage parlor that was more than, the happy ending massages type parlor. It might be a prostitute. It might be strippers who have come to bachelor parties or at strip clubs that are there against their will. 1 in 7. So I asked a detective who's a friend of mine who worked in Fairfax County on sex trafficking cases. This is what he did. He worked vice. He worked with sex trafficking cases in Fairfax County, which is right outside of Washington, D.C. And I said, when you were a detective, what did the average victim look like that you were, or not victim, the average John that looked like that you were arresting and dealing with? And he's like, Amelia, you'd be shocked. So between they're 35 to 45 years old, typically in that area, white, male, married, has kids. They claim that they attend, I'm a good church-going person. I didn't know that was what was going on. They attended to attend religious services monthly. It sounds like a lot of the people we know, right? It sounds like the people you see in the grocery store. They sound like the people you might see at church, that you might see in your Rotary room, in your Rotary meeting. They might be living under your roof. 1 in 7. That was amazing to me. So what's going on in North Carolina? So North Carolina, and my statistics are a little old. They're from 2019 because the 2020 numbers when they came out were all screwed up. Let me tell you, when employers even puts a little asterisk next to it, like, don't use our numbers right now because they came in and they did something in 2020. We'll blame it on COVID. But so in 2019, and the 2021 numbers aren't out, so they'll be out here in the next couple of months, and I can update. But in 2019, North Carolina had the 11th highest incidence of reported trafficking cases. So that's a big number. You think about 11 being 11th in the country out of 50 states. 266 trafficking cases in 2019 with 501 victims. It's just under 2 victims per case, which is the average. Most traffickers are running 2 victims across the country. So it's not necessarily just a one-on-one. There's typically, they're running more than 1 victim. Of those cases, 184 of those, about 70% involved some sort of sex trafficking, whether it was just sex trafficking or sex and labor, but involved some kind of sex trafficking. That's kind of the norm in the US, is somewhere between 70 to 80% of the cases in most states are going to be sex trafficking related, which is one of the reasons I stayed focused on that. Was I was like, okay, that's where the biggest need is that I could put my head around. So that's why I started focusing there. And these are only reported cases. Polaris, who runs the National Human Trafficking Hotline, estimates that only 1%, maybe a little less, are ever reported properly to them. So there's a lot more cases. This is the tip of the iceberg. And that's why it's important to notice that this is the incidence of reported cases, which means that North Carolina, while having a lot, means that you guys are reporting them too, which is good. That's the positive side of this. So where are they? You can look at this heat map and see where they are. You can see up and down the highways. You can see in the larger urban areas. You can see where these are. I would argue one of the reasons that they're hot in those areas is that's where the awareness is. That's where community awareness is getting the word out. They're having posters put up up and down the highways and the rest stops and the gas stations and places like that. So when the people see something, they can say something, they can do something about it to get them reported. So it doesn't mean that that's the only places it's happening. That's where they're being reported. So I would argue because it happens in every community around the world, it's probably happening in all of those places that don't have colors, but nobody has created awareness there, which is an opportunity for you guys in your district and in the other districts in North Carolina to band together to say, we're going to do something about this to create community awareness. So I'm not going to go deep into all of these things, but know that this is information that you can get. There's 4 steps to trafficking. Like you can go out, if you can figure out how to make a pipe bomb on YouTube, you can Google anything, right? But there's 4 steps and you too can learn how to traffic someone. Goes from luring to grooming and gaming to coercion, manipulation, and exploitation. I've really stayed on that front end, on that prevention end. So helping to educate before they're lured or as they're being lured, before they're groomed, to be able to get the word out there to them before they're actually trafficked. So people ask, well, what does luring look like? This is a text that one of my friends got. Came through on one of her instant message or something, and she sent it to me. And so this is from her and she's like a 60-plus-year-old full-grown woman, so she knew enough not to respond to this, but go back to him that average victim is 12 years old. Imagine if a 6th grader who's stuck at home got this. Imagine if you got this when you were in 6th grade. Somebody's all cutesy-eyed and that, hey, do you want to be friends? How old are you? Can you drive? All of those things. And all it takes is respond to one, right? Is that slippery slope of, they put it out there to all of those people fishing, and all it takes is 1 or 2 to respond. They don't care about the individual. They just need 1 or 2 to respond to then to be able to start luring them in and gaming them and playing them until they can exploit them. So this is one of the many types of things that you would get. Kids are getting them through their gaming devices. You're hearing about that all the time, especially through COVID. You started hearing about using gaming platforms to be able to reach especially boys. So just frightening. So common signs of grooming. Won't go through all of them. The big thing is the kid changes. They might have unexplained things, unexplained money, clothes, tablets, games, other expensive things. You didn't buy it for them. They didn't have a birthday. How did they don't have a job. How did they get that? How did they get that thing? So unexplained things. If you can't explain it, if it doesn't make sense, it might be a case of grooming. Doesn't mean it always is, but it might be. They might change the way they dress. Are they suddenly more promiscuous? If you have a girl that's suddenly dressing very different, like attitude is changing, all of those things. They may not be showing up to school or to a friend's house or to home or to church or wherever they're supposed to be. Those unexplained absences that just aren't adding up. Rapid changes in behavior, moodiness, depression, distancing, all of those things that happen that you're like, what is going on? Something is changing here. But you got to admit, that sounds like a lot of teenagers, right? Things change, kids change, they change their friends, all of those things. So what do? Sit down and have a conversation with them, find out more about what's going on in their lives. And if you suspect something, say something. Program in your phone the national hotline. I guarantee you will need this number at some point in your life, whether you're sharing it with somebody who asked the question, can I get this number from you? Program it in your phone so you can have that. Or you see something and that gut instinct kicks in, like something's going on either in your own home, or you see something, a change in a kid that or you're at the gas station or at a truck stop and you see, or a rest stop, and you see this kid that's going through something just doesn't add up. We've all had that spidey sense, but then you're like, I don't know, should I report? I don't want to get involved. Just do it. Get involved. Report it. Do not engage with the trafficker or the victim if you see them at the rest stop or anywhere like that, because that may make it worse for that victim. But take a picture, see if you can get the license plate, see if you can get a description, and report it. You can text that information to the hotline. You can see it here. If you had a picture of the license plate and snapped a picture walking by of the trafficker or the victim, send that into them. Message it in, call it in, send it to 911. Your job is to report it, not necessarily have to be right or wrong. Your job is to report what you're suspecting, because if you report it, it gives those that are investigating the chance to be able to investigate it. They can't find it all on their own. It requires us as a community to really step up and to be aware and be alert and to report this. So what can I do as a Rotarian? Inside every Rotarian is a superhero with the power to end slavery. And that's what I'm really here to share with you guys today. It's about the Rotary Action Group Against Slavery, which is, I'm now on the board for, I'm the Virginia coordinator for it. But this is really where the rubber hits the road within Rotary on the anti-slavery movement. The Rotary Action Group Against Slavery is committed to connect, empower, and equip Rotarians to engage their communities to eradicate all forms of human trafficking locally and globally. What that means is we're not telling you you have to go in and kick in a brothel door. We're not telling you you need to intervene with something. We're telling you to work with your communities to do that, to get engaged with them, to support your NGOs and all of the things that you can do, because we as Rotarians have some really cool superpowers. One, we are the most networked people in the world. Think about it. 1.4 million Rotarians around the world that are business leaders, government leaders, leaders in our communities, all of these things. We are so well networked. There's nobody that we can't touch through just a couple. You did like 7 degrees of Kevin Bacon. You can do it way faster within Rotary because we know everyone and everyone touches someone, right? We are very compassionate people as Rotarians. We see a problem, we take action. I think about 2017 for me. I came home from this convention and went, somebody should do something. That was me. A fire was lit in me and I said, okay, I can do something about it. That's that organization piece. We as Rotarians know how to get our communities organized. We know how to get things done. We know how to step up, lean in, and get our hands dirty and do it right. And we're great communicators. We know how to connect with every media outlet in our communities. We know how to get the word out. People look to us because they know that we're going to tell the truth. We're going to be able to bring people to the table. We're always there doing those things that make us as Rotarians stand out in our communities. And when we take on a project like this, like polio, like any of the areas of focus that we have, our communities know that we mean business and that we can get it done. So we as the Rotary Action Group Against Slavery came up with our Community Awareness and Prevention Education, CAPE, hence the CAPE plan, to be able to help our members take it from that moment that the Rotarian is interested. I'm going to pop over here. That from the minute that they're interested and they have a passion for this, to be able to create awareness within their club, to engage their community, to assess to do a community assessment, to collaborate, all of those things. What we look at is within Ragus is we're not asking you to go out and create a new thing. We're asking you to be that hub, to be the hub and spoke. So if you came in as a hub, as the conveners of your community, to be able to pull together your stakeholders, let your stakeholders be those spokes coming around to go do what they do, but your job is to hold them together, to help them collaborate, to help them solve the problem, and then to take it out to the community. So that tread where the rubber meets the road is your community. So if you think of it as a hub and spoke, we're saying, hey, we have a tool for you to be able to go out and do this throughout your community, wherever that community is, to be able to take it piece by piece so that you don't have to do all of it yourself. So with that, there's a bunch of other tools that are in there when you join Ragus, but to join us, and thank you, Deb, for joining us this week. That was awesome. One of our newest members is DGE Deb Corbett. It is $30 a year to join the Rotary Action Group Against Slavery, $75 for 5 years. And also Christina is a member. Thank you, Christina. This is how we fund our projects. This is how you get access to our tools, to get access to that step-by-step, how to put together that plan for your community and to be able to help you through it. We actually have a grant that'll be opening up, I think in September. I'm waiting for the dates on this. So as soon as it opens up, I'll let you guys know. But to be able to help create a community awareness or prevention education plan for your community if you want to lean into it. So with that, I'll take questions if you have any questions.
Of course you do. Hey, this is Kevin. Can I jump in real quickly?
Yeah.
Amelia, first of all, thank you for the presentation.
You're welcome.
I wanted to share with folks that I have a life experience with this activity. When I was in the FBI right here in Charlotte, one of the last cases I worked on was the trafficking of a 12-year-old girl who was living with her grandmother. And she had been lured, just as Amelia pointed out, from a relationship, lured by a guy who was 31 or 32. It had been going on for about 6 months, as we found out. Her grandmother wasn't paying very close attention to her online activity, and she was able to just get out of the house one night and go with this man to Portsmouth, Ohio, where we arrested him. It was about 3 days after he lured her to the car, but because he went across state lines, this was something that was prosecuted federally, and he received a substantial sentence. Second point is we have investigators in the FBI who work on this kind of stuff, especially the cyber activity, through an initiative called Innocent Images. It's an incredibly active program. You would not believe the number of images that are shared between child predators in this country and actually beyond, because it's a worldwide event. But the investigators who do this stuff are a really, really special breed of people. And this stuff is traumatic for the people who have to investigate it as well.
Yeah.
There's a number of victims in human trafficking, especially when it involves kids. And as a grandfather, I can tell you it's something that just kind of tugs at your heart. So Amelia, thank you so much for this. And I know Kelly's got some questions as well.
Awesome.
And Daryl does online. Daryl, you want to do it while Kelly's on her way up?
Is it true that the Super Bowl day is the highest rate of sex trafficking?
Okay.
Yes, 100%. And sadly, I'll say this, that goes with it. Anytime there's a large gathering, you see a spike. I had a conversation with somebody from Hamburg after the Hamburg Rotary convention, and there was a spike in trafficking during sex activity, I should say, during the Rotary convention there. We are not immune to it. 1 in 7, we are not immune just because we're Rotarians, sadly. But anytime there's a gathering, so whether it's sports, it's I'll just give this as an example, because this is something that we're dealing with in our town. Is we have a couple of illicit massage parlors that we're working diligently with our local law enforcement to get closed down. And my husband is out for a run, and he does he runs a prayer circle around them, which is kind of interesting. So he was out on 4th of July weekend on July, I think it was the 2nd. Then it was the 2nd. And he was like, oh, one of them is closing down. It's finally working. He was all excited because they were moving stuff out. And then he saw it was temporarily closed, and he's like, it was weird. Like they're moving all their personal goods. Like he was like, it was like they were going on a weekend trip. And I'm like, it's not a weekend trip. Most likely they were taking them up to DC because the fireworks display and everything, most likely they were going up there to serve the people that were coming in to celebrate America's freedom. And they came back, then they were back on Tuesday. So happens.
So I have 2 quick questions.
Yeah.
One is this, you said this is like the 2nd biggest, crime.
Price. Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Is this organized crime, or is this mostly individuals or pockets that are committing or, perpetuating this?
It's a little bit of both. So on the organized side is a lot of the labor is organized. Some of the sex is organized with like in our area, MS-13 and the larger gangs. But people are also trafficked by their family members. So you'll see familial. About 40% of sex trafficking in minors is in the U.S. is familial. So somebody in their family that's trafficking their daughter or their son or granddaughter, grandson. So it's a little bit of both depending on where you are. It's a good question.
So back in my former life, I worked for America Online, when it was cool in the 90s.
Yeah.
Dial up, baby, dial up. And we actually had something called the knock, and they had a high burnout rate because they were folks in this little dark room. And occasionally we'd see them come out, and it was just like, but they were the ones reviewing all the images. It was a very, like Kevin said, a very traumatic job, and go through counseling and everything just to have that job. But as a mother of 14-year-old boys, are online, and a neighbor of a child who just died accidentally through a TikTok challenge at 12. He died unexpectedly doing a TikTok challenge. Our online companies like TikTok, Discord, Roblox, are they taking a stance or being held accountable for things that are happening, for grooming and things that are happening on their platforms?
It's a great question. I'm thinking about how to answer that, because they all say they are, but are they? Every platform says that they're taking a stand, that they're doing something about it, but are they? And are they doing it well enough, fast enough? And I don't know how you do it fast enough, well enough, but it's amazing that it continues to happen. And I think that's where I think we as consumers have to take a stand on it. And it's up to us to not consume and to speak out against it.
Has any instances gone to court against any of those platforms? Do you know if if anyone's been able to, because after my neighbor just passed away recently, I was interested to see, not that his family would do it because it just prolongs the pain, but like, would anyone be able to go after TikTok for letting those types of TikTok challenges that end in children's deaths? Like, is anyone going after these companies? So,
that's a great question. I don't know the answer. I'm assuming the answer to that is yes, but who? So, I mean, that would really be, but that's us as Rotarians again, right? We're connected. We have connections to our Attorney General. I mean, we all have connections that we can say, okay, well, let's lean into this. Let's go after this. So, kind of goes back to the God created each of us to lean into it. So it might be have a conversation and see where and that would be really going to your Attorney General's office to see if you can get them to take that up.
I have one question. I'm sorry, this is going to be a little controversial, but I'm throwing it out there anyway. Would the legalization of sex workers cut down on this type of activity?
Great question. And I'm not going to dig too far into that because that's a very long answer. But from what I have read from many of the NGOs and from people that are out of Las Vegas and other places, including Germany and other places where some prostitution is legal, the answer is no. Because and there's a lot of reasons to it, and we can get into that offline. But their answer is no. It does not help, because wherever you have a product and you have it where people feel that they can, somebody can get it cheaper, and so it just creates more demand.
Got it. All right, thank you.
You're welcome, Daryl. You had your hand up a long time.
He's patient.
Thank you. You mentioned that you were in Atlanta for the international, I think it was 2017.
Yep.
And when President Obama was still president, 2015, we had the United States Attorney General come to Charlotte. I spent a lot of time being involved with city council and state government as well in North Carolina over the years. And during that time that you were there in Atlanta, the beltway from Atlanta to Charlotte, North Carolina was the most widely used beltway in Eastern United States for human trafficking. And I think it still is designated as that most widely used beltway to traffic human beings for whatever sex trafficking or what have you. And then in addition to that, our fair city of Charlotte, which continues to remain quiet about it as far as leadership is concerned, we have persons like yourself and within organizations throughout our county that are working hard to help rescue and make awareness of it. But Charlotte is within the top 7 in the nation in human trafficking as far as cities. We're number 7, in addition to this, our state being number 11. So a lot of people don't know how bad Charlotte is, and it didn't get that way until we got the Panthers and the Hornets. We already had NASCAR, what have you, but once we got those 2 major sports venues to come, we just jumped out of the ceiling. It was insane. Oh, it is insane. And MS-13 is also here a part of that problem, even in the city of Charlotte, which is a lot of things, again, is kept quiet. So I'm just kneeling down on Charlotte and what have you, but where you say that you are living, I understand the Baltimore, DC, that Bay Area and having the access to ships and what have you is in the top 5 worst in the nation. And if that is still the case, how are you in your area how has it been for you working with them and being able to rescue and make awareness for folks, because it is so detrimental in your area up there? How has it been for you to let people be aware?
So great question. I have been on the front end on the community awareness and the prevention piece of it. I've not been on the back end. I have a lot of partners who are on the back end of actually rescuing victims, helping them to become survivors and so on. So on the front end of it, on the prevention education, it is widely accepted. And once people have their eyes open, they suddenly go, oh, well, what do we do about it? I don't run into opposition when it comes to awareness and prevention. Politically, also don't run into, it's one of the few nonpartisan, I wouldn't even say bipartisan, one of the few nonpartisan things that both sides of the aisle at every level of government steps up and leans into. Because one, it's human rights, right? And it's not something that should be politicized. And people have been very good at not politicizing this and getting both sides of the aisle to work together regularly. But also, if somebody privately is against it, that's basically like saying, I don't like kids and I would beat a puppy. Like, it's one of those things that it's the, like, how do you say I want to support human trafficking? You can't and be in office. So people come together on both sides and really work together on this. We're seeing, especially here at the state level in Virginia, both sides of the aisle work together all the way through and co-patron bills. And we're getting a lot of stuff passed because we've gotten so organized, and Rotary's been part of that, and Rotarians have been part of that. And part of that's because we're non-political. So we're able to make that happen. And every time it goes to a political side, we bring it back to, no, this is a center, this is a non-political. And that seems to work really, really well. But thank you, Daryl, for that question.
And one more thing, you guys are right near the shipyards. And from my, being trained and informed on it, that's, you guys have one of the, also one of the issues, because people are immediately put inside those containers in the shipyards and taken to other countries very quickly.
Yeah.
And so is that a big part of your education piece and trying to help eliminate that or reduce that?
I have not personally been involved in that where I am. I know there's groups that we work with that are in District 7620, which is the Richmond and includes that area of Newport News and Portsmouth and things that work on it, but I have not personally been on that side of it.
Anyone else?
One more question. Amelia, again, many thanks. The tools, the community assessment tool you offer as a part of membership. Do you guys take a look at that to see commonalities across districts and feedback that information to members? We have not collected it at this point to be able to do that. That would be wonderful. As we keep building each tool in our toolbox, I think it'd be great to have a way to be able to have that reported back in if you could get it. What we've done so far is providing here's how to do it and letting each community be able to do their own assessment. We give like, here's a listing of typical stakeholders to get you started. Here's questions to ask. Here's how to get started. But it really is a community by community approach. It'd be cool to be able to get that data back though. Cool.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good question. Cool. Thank you guys so much. I truly appreciate it. And I'll say I'm sending to Cam, Deb, and Kevin a pledge if you guys want as a district to take on a pledge like we've done up here in Virginia to say, hey, we want to make this a focus, not the only, but a focus and support this. I know that that's something I've talked to each of you guys about over time. So I'd love for that.
And the zone has done that too, correct?
You got it.
Yep.
You got it.
Zone 3334 has taken the pledge and has assigned a committee to be part of this, which is awesome. So
That is wonderful.
yeah.
I just have a quick comment too. When Kevin and I lived in Midland, Michigan, we knew a girl who was abused at, I believe she was under 2 years old. Her daycare provider was trafficking her out, and her mother was a call person at the police department.
Oh, it's a dispatcher.
A dispatcher, yeah. So it happens everywhere.
Yeah.
Thank you so very much.
You're welcome.
We really appreciate this. I'm gonna take your pen off so we can see everybody. Does anybody else have any questions or comments?
Hey, Jenny.
Yep.
Frank's not here, but Frank told me that he was gonna put $5 in Happy Dollars because he's got 2 Scooby-Doo hearing aids now, and they're working perfectly. So.
Yay, good. Okay.
Jenny, I want to take, if you don't mind, I first wanted to say hello to everybody in the room and on the Zoom call. Thank you for having us here on this call, Jenny and Kevin, for the invitation. It's been great. Amelia, no matter how many ever times I hear you, I want to hear you one more time. So thank you for sharing that time and talents. Really appreciate it. And definitely thank you for keeping the 3 DGs spread out, because there was a huge risk coming in the same room. Specifically Deb and Kevin, if they're in the same room, it's very dangerous. So, thank you for doing that.
It's dangerous mostly because of the things that could happen, not because of the illness.
I'm really concerned about my right and left hands together. So thank you, everyone. Have a great day, and thank you, Jenny, for everything.
Thank you, Cam, for coming. Okay, can we do a raffle? Who would like to pull it? Kevin, can you pick somebody to do the raffle?
How about you?
I was gonna say that. The almost new members.
Somebody has a really good somebody. All right.
Well, we know it won't be David this week. 8193. Yay. Thank you. Okay, can we pass up the cart buckets and stand and do the 5-way test?
Yes.
Of all the things we think, say, or do, number 1. Number 2.
Is it fair to all concerned?
Number 3.
Will it build good friendships?
Number 4.
Will it
Will it be beneficial to all concerned?
And number 5.
Will it be?
Have
Hey.
fun!
Thank you guys so much for coming, all of you online and all of you in site. And
Thank you,
hopefully we
everyone.
will get this fixed at some point.
Thank you all for the opportunity. It's great to see everyone, and thank you for all your questions.
Bye. Thank
Amelia,
you.
those
Bye.
pass outs, do you want me to put those in the newsletter?
You certainly can. I can attach them to the email I'll send out as well to you guys.
Okay, I downloaded them, but yeah, go ahead.
Perfect. Awesome. Good
Thank
stuff.
you
Thank
so
you all.
much.
Take care.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye, everybody.
You look rested, whether you are or not, you look rested. Yeah. Well, it's like no morning in the yacht, in that rock. Yeah. That's a funny thing. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's just to go straight to voicemail. You don't have to go on.
Yes, ma'am.
I think I saw it.
President, you and Jenny both have to go. Yeah, mine wasn't supposed to be, but.
Okay, so, yeah, there was a wheel. I don't know if
Yes.
maybe this was Jenny's, I don't know.
Yeah, this one was Jenny's.
That was Jenny's.
Yeah, I get it.
That's yours. I don't know. This is, oh, wait a minute, maybe that's yours. I don't know who's it. Well, it was here, was supposed. Kelly's, well, Kelly's was over there. See, that was.
This is mine.
Gotcha. Kelly ate your meal.
I got it.
So,
Can you take that one to Taylor?
That's kind of excellent. That's just an extra one.
Okay, thank you.
I texted him. That was supposed to be you.
That was
And that was supposed to be Kelly.
Kelly ate
Kelly
mine.
ate it.
My
Yeah.
lunch.
I did not, it was placed right here in my stuff.
You ate my lunch.
You're sitting in my seat.
Well, we got an extra meal.
Would you like Eric? Would you like me? Would you like my?
Because I always forget to leave it. No, everybody's having some kind of surgery. I'm the only one, I've never had surgery many times. So. Yeah, no surgery. So.
They put one right here.
I just got mine to go.
So here's an extra drink chicken pita. if anybody wants. Well, I asked Taylor if he ordered a meal, he said no. So I'm sure he always ensures that he will be fed.
Cool.
So he does. Okay,
I got mine.
I'll take it and offer it to him. He doesn't want to make Dana more than memory.
Yeah.
We basically had to like rig up the mic so that jack up the volume.